Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pause for My Tale podcast. I'm your host, Shepherd the Leopard, also shortened as Shep the Snep. And this is my wonderful guest for the 5th episode of this amazing life story, 2Chaotic, the raccoon. The last episode, we were talking about his meeting his boyfriend and moving out to Seattle and just how the furry community has really just been there to support him throughout that process. This episode, we're going to talk about his experience with autism, how he discovered he had it, and kind of that story that you've experienced going through that process. And then also, if we have any extra time, I told him that we'd give him a little bit of time. He can pitch his wonderful stream on twitch.tv and just talk about streaming in general and what that's meant for him, because I know a lot of furries really enjoy streaming and watching streams, and so it'd be interesting to hear your perspective on that. So with that, Chaotic, tell us about your experience with autism.
Boy, this is a long one. Okay, so I guess we'll start at the beginning. Because back in elementary school, most of my friends were the children that were in the special needs class. And a lot of them had autism, a lot of them had learning disabilities, a lot of them had ADHD, but they were kind of the more stereotypical visual ones, that when people would think, at least back where I came from with autism, that, you can't function, you spout weird nonsense, you kind of sit in the corner, you don't interact with people, you're nonverbal, you kind of do weird things that people can't quite understand. And that was always the visual picture of autism. The media didn't help that growing up either. That was always the portrayal of the media as well. So kind of flash forward to most of my experiences through school and college, I would never have thought that I had autism because I didn't fit that visual profile of it. And that was always the experience that I had kind of in class, especially like in my psych class even. That was what was taught. That was like, that's what autism is. It's not a spectrum, blah, blah, blah. It's this, you can't function in society. And that's just, I never even considered the thought that I had autism. I always thought that I just had ADHD. And after I got diagnosed with ADHD, I'm like, well, yep, that explains everything. Here we are. I figured it out. I found out, my thing, it's me. But there were still things that weren't quite adding up. After I kind of met some new friends who had autism and were very vocal about their experiences with autism, they kind of explained their experience with me. And it was definitely not the visual version that people would normally associate with. And they would describe to me, the spectrum of autism, where everyone's experience on it is different. There's a whole grab bag of symptoms that people experience, and no two people really experience it the same way. So there'll be the more visual sides that you can see where people, are nonverbal, or they, have outbursts, or they can't talk correctly, or they are savants and they're really good at one thing but can't function anywhere else in their life. Or there is the more classical version, which is now outdated, that I would not recommend using this term anymore, but it's part of the history of it, so it needs to be talked about, where it's called Asperger's disease or Asperger's disorder. And you probably have heard of that one before, where it's kind of it's not labeled as autism. It's kind of autism adjacent, where you're able to function in society, but you still experience some of the traits. There's a very derogatory term around it now that's called high functioning autism. And I had ran into people who had that before, and I never thought that I experienced those traits. But once I kind of got to understand what autism really was from the people who had it around me, I'm like, oh, that would explain a lot. Like I talk about eye contact. That's more of an autistic trait than an ADHD trait, where it's really hard for me to look people in the eye because it causes a lot of anxiety. And I can't really explain why. It just does. And my personal experience with it is that I experienced a lot of the more invisible sides of autism, where I have a lot of sensitivities to touch. I have a lot of sensitivities to various like clothing fabrics, like any dress clothing that is even remotely itchy. I refuse to wear. I will not wear it. I don't care if I would go to jail if I didn't wear a suit to a wedding. I'm not going to wear that suit if it ain't comfortable. It's not happening because I'm going to be in utter torment the whole time. And it would drive me insane. I couldn't focus. I can't do anything. And growing up, my mother would buy me clothes that itched all the time because she thought they looked good. And I would purposefully like destroy them in some fashion because I would not wear them. Like they would suddenly get holes.
Chaotic, what happened to your pants?
And well, I got muddy outside. Not like I dragged them through the creek several times or anything. Oops, they got a hole in them. Can I wear my favorite pair of jeans now that's been, acidified through dryer sheets to hell and back, that they're comfortable? And I think I had 2 pairs of jeans in high school that I wore every day. I would alternate between them every other day because they were the only pair of jeans that were comfortable. They were smooth. They didn't have the stretchy, weird denim fabric feel to them. And I never thought that was, a trait of autism. But then I have sensitivities to various stimuli. Like I love fur cons, but I really can't do the raves. I can't handle the lights. I can't handle the noise. And I never thought that could have been, a symptom of autism. But it turns out that, that sensitivity to light and sound, it just overwhelms me. I can't think. I can't function. I start to have an anxiety attack when I'm in that environment. And my friend, explained all these different traits to me, and I started researching it for myself. And I seen that, well, this explains a lot. And so I went to get tested for it. And that was a whole process that I'm sure other people who have experienced this know way too much about. Because to get tested for autism officially, you can't just get diagnosed like ADHD. You have to get a neurological evaluation. And that's a long, involved process of going to a specialized doctor that runs you through all these like childish tests almost. Even for an adult, they made me do tests that are meant for children. Like some of the tests involve like taking like a Rubik's Cube and trying to put it back together after it's broken. Or trying to, here's a bunch of shapes on a paper. If you were to rotate, this shape that's the example shape, which one of these shapes would it look like when it's rotated? Turns out I couldn't do that one. Didn't know that. Didn't know I had problems with, spatial rotation in my brain, but apparently I do. And things like a lot of short-term memory when it comes to remembering like letter sequences and things, that these kinds of tests. There were lots of response time tests. I mean, I passed those with flying colors because I play video games too often. That was actually something the doctor stated. He's like, you did really well on these response time tests, so I'm kind of thinking you don't have autism. I'm like, no, stop, hold on a minute. I play video games, sir. I've had this practice my whole life. There were other things like they probably asked me a 400-page questionnaire on, are you, in this situation, would you do this or this? There's a lot of yes or no answers. There's a lot of, would you say you're more observant or more judgmental? And I'm like, how do you quantify this? But these are just, they would ask me 400 of those types of questions.
Wow.
And
that's a lot.
It took 6 hours for this appointment. It took forever.
Opposed to your ADHD appointment, which was 11 questions?
Yeah, and took maybe 20 minutes. But to get a diagnosis as autism as an adult was so difficult because I don't experience the like visual traits. I have most of the invisible ones. And a lot of things like not picking up social cues. Like I can look at somebody's body language and not understand what they're trying to tell me with their body language. I can, like I have to ask my boyfriend all the time how he's feeling because I can't read him a lot of the time. And there are just a lot of people that I can't read. I can't read their emotions like, a normal person would be able to. I can't look at one of my coworkers and say, well, are you angry with me? Because that's kind of weird to just ask out of the blue. So it causes a lot of problems in social situations, because if I can't read somebody, I don't know how to interact with them. I don't know the safest way to get what I need from them. Or I got another big part of it was dyscalculia. I have certain parts of math that I thought that I understood that I apparently don't. Like just a lot of the geometry stuff that was on these questionnaires, I'm like, oh, this is easy. And then I start doing it and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't rotate a shape in my head. I can't see the apple in my brain. What's going on? And I'm like, is this really part of an autism diagnosis? And they're like, yep, spatial awareness is definitely part of it. I'm like, oh, crap. I do have autism. But then I started to connect the pieces backwards throughout my life. And I noticed that in school, I didn't fit in with the other kids. I couldn't pick up their cues. I didn't like the same things they did. I wasn't part of their social groups. I couldn't mingle with them. I couldn't keep up with their conversations. And then it started to make sense. I'm like, oh my God, I've had autism my whole life and I didn't know it. And I've just kind of meandered through life experiencing all these difficulties that, had I known this as a child, could have been different.
That assessment that you had, when you were finished with it, did they actually tell you you have autism, you have this kind of autism, you have this much autism? What did that assessment actually look like when it was finished?
So when it was finished, after the 6 hours, I had to come back for an appointment a month later. And that appointment was not cheap. That appointment was like $900.
Wow.
That was with my insurance.
Whoa.
Man, dude, I don't even want to know. Yeah, I don't even want to know how much it is without insurance, because that was insane. Just for them to give me some math tests, some writing tests, ask me a bunch of questions, and then have me do some stuff on a computer. And I was an adult. Like, I can't imagine a child going through this. And that would be insane. But there's a huge barrier to it. But there's also, like, we're in a mental health crisis right now in terms of doctors. At least back in Indiana we were, where there is only one clinic in Indiana that gives these tests. There was only one. It just so happened to be in Indianapolis, but this was the only place in Indiana that I could have got this diagnosis. If I lived, 3 hours to the south near Louisville, I probably would have had to find somewhere down there out of state to get it, unless I wanted to drive 3 hours to Indianapolis for an appointment for 6 hours.
Well, and talking about like how our healthcare system is currently, we all as a community just experienced the passing of Dragoneer, and just how awful that was, where he had just been out of work for a few months, and because he didn't have insurance for those few months, he wasn't able to get the treatment he needed. There were so many hurdles that were put in front of him, both financial and just systemic wise, to where he wasn't able to get the treatment he needed and passed because significantly it was just a healthcare system failure in our country that led to his death.
And it's very sad.
Yeah, but you getting, your autism appraisal, just all different things. We have a crisis, and I think it hits our community especially hard, being LGBT and, talking about autism. The community has a very
neurodivergent
aspects to them. Yeah, neurodivergent, autism, ADHD, among several others. And so really for us, like these healthcare systems, that we have at least in our country, in the United States, like they hit us that much harder because of all these barriers to access and such.
I'm trying real hard to suppress a chuckle. Not at that. Not any way, shape, or form at that. But that's another symptom of autism, is I was trying to complete your sentences for you. I do that on the regular for people. And I have to suppress that so hard because it's just another trait of autism is people tend to try to finish your thoughts for you because they know the answer that's coming.
Is there a
So
syndrome of anything where I have a hard time like being able to put words to what I want to say? Because that
yeah,
comes in
I
handy
mean
for me
that's
because you
part of it.
can complete those.
That's part of it. Not being able to effectively communicate what you're doing. That's definitely another trait of autism. And I mean, there are times where I am nonverbal. Telegram is great for this. I speak in stickers. I am fluent in sticker.
You really do.
And I mean, there are a lot of times where I don't say anything to somebody. I just send them a series of stickers to indicate what I mean. I consider that to be a form of nonverbal communication.
Yeah, I'll send you a question like, "How are you doing?" And you'll just bing sticker, and then I'll be like, "Oh," and then I'll ask you another question. You just bing sticker, and then sometimes there's like a series of stickers, and I have to decipher like what the series means. But you are so quick. I have no idea how you can whip them out as fast as you can, but like you do, you communicate visually through stickers rather
Yeah,
than words half the
that's
time.
definitely one of the ways I communicate sometimes. And just there's lots of these little traits that I would have never thought were part of autism, but that's part of the autism spectrum. And I had so much of it that I'm like, this explains so much of my childhood, why I had so many problems. And nobody ever thought to have me tested for it. And I don't think back then that they would have found it because the stigma that's there. And even nowadays, like even as an adult, it was so hard for me to get a diagnosis because a lot of the diagnosis depends on you having it as a child. And that was a big part of this neurological evaluation was he was trying to determine if I've had autism my whole life. And if it's not just something that I'm, faking or something, or can be explained by a different disorder. And so he effectively diagnosed me very begrudgingly. He didn't want to do it. I could tell that he didn't want to do it. But he did give me the autism diagnosis. He diagnosed me with autism spectrum disorder, with ADHD, with anxiety or generalized anxiety disorder. I don't agree with that one.
Why do you think he had a hard time diagnosing you for autism? Like, why would that be such a difficult thing for a medical professional to give you that kind of a diagnosis?
Because he had to take me at my word because I didn't show the visual traits. Like I really only have the ones that are mental traits or emotional traits or social traits that aren't easily seen. And so I have to explain to him through, my childhood and all the other actions that I've taken. And he just had to take me at face value for that. And I don't think he wanted to do that. And when I struggled on some of the tests, I think that he thought that I was faking it. And because I would fly through like, synonym test where, it's basically he gives you a word, you come up with a synonym for it, or an antonym test where it's the opposite. And I'd fly through those, but I'm a writer. That's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy writing and I write stories. I've wrote fan fiction novels that will never be disclosed to the light of day. And I do writing commissions on rare occasion when the mood strikes, and I write stories and whatnot. My partner's a writer. He's a much more prolific writer than I am. But it's just I would fly through those tests, and then I would struggle with basic memory tests. Or I would struggle with these like shape rotation tests, or I would struggle with geometry stuff. And I would fly through all the other tests. And I don't think he wanted to give it to me because I was coping so much in other aspects of my life that I could cover up these other traits. And I think that's definitely part of the stigma with it, is that just because, because of my scoliosis, I have a handicap sign because I can't lift objects. I can't walk, for long periods of time. I can't stand for long periods of time. But there have been people, I get out of my car at Walmart or something with my handicap sign in my front car, and they look at me and they're like, "You're not handicapped." I'm like, just because you can't see that I have a disability doesn't mean that I don't have one. You can't see my metal rods in my spine, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. And it's the same with the autism. Like with my ADHD, I don't experience a lot of the hyperactive traits most of the time. And while they'll come out when I'm streaming because I let them out, I let them loose when I'm on stream because that's me. But I restrain them when I'm around other people because that would make it hard to interact with them. So with the autism, it's all unseen. It's stuff that people can't really tell.
I think that's kind of been a hidden theme that I've noticed from what you've been describing with your life, is just how quick people can be to pass judgment without having all of the information, by just giving a glance at a person and just determining, like, this is how I should feel about them. Like, this is how society should feel about you because of how you look, or how you, like, where you're from and things like that. So just like your experience going to a con and experiencing how people can be different, your experience with your boyfriend and how, like, you can have a different relationship than the typical relationship, how you can carry these invisible disabilities, and how you really don't deserve to be judged by anyone because of any of those. Like, you figured out what's worked for you, and why is it somebody's business to then be like, oh, he doesn't look disabled, I'm going to give him the side eye? Like, that just does not sound right at all.
And I mean, and I can't say that I don't do that to other people, because that's been so ingrained in me growing up that it's just second nature. It's so hard to stop it from happening. Like, Seattle has a large issue with a homeless population. There's not enough homes to go around. There's a lot of people who, are out on their luck for one reason or another. And, whether they deserve to be there or not, no one deserves to be homeless. Like, everyone needs a roof over their head, but people will treat them as if they're dirty, as if they're scum, as if they deserve to be there, as if they don't exist. And I mean, where I grew up, I don't think there was a single homeless person that I've ever seen. And just coming out here and seeing that, I didn't know how to interact with it at first, because we didn't have that problem in Indianapolis very much. I mean, there's some homeless population in Indianapolis, but not nearly as much as there is out here. And I didn't quite know how to treat that. But to see other people treating them as if they don't exist, or as if they should be shuffled off to some side, get out of my park or get out of my yard or all this other, like, they're human beings, they're people.
Yeah.
Like, that could be anybody. And it's been the same with my disability. It's like, a lot of people say that it's not an excuse, or that you shouldn't use it as an excuse. I'm like, would you blame a person in a wheelchair for not being able to run a race? Like, it's the same with my ADHD. A lot of people don't consider it to be a disability, but it very much is, because it affects my everyday life. It affects everything I do. Like, if I forget my keys in the morning, I'm going to be late to work. If I forget to call somebody on their birthday, they're going to be mad at me. But people seem to think that I'm trying to use this as a crutch, as an excuse, but that's not at all. Like, I don't want to use it as an excuse. I don't want to have to be like this. I don't want to be, this disabled, broken person that people can see me as sometimes. But at the same time, people don't stop and think, maybe I need some help, or maybe, I need to give him a bit more concession on things, Maybe don't blame him when he forgets to do something, Maybe say, hey, I know you forgot. Can you please do it? There's no harm, no foul, that kind of thing. And I don't want people to be, like, mean to me about it. Remind me to do the thing. I'll go do the thing. I may forget 14 more times. I'll eventually do it. But don't make me feel ashamed about it, just because I can't stop it from happening.
Yeah.
And the medication only works for ADHD. There is no treatment for autism. Like, you can go to therapy. That's it. Like, there is no pill you can take to help anything with that, really.
I think what you're getting at is just a bit of kindness and understanding for everyone really goes a long way, and we don't get enough of it. For everyone, really. I've got a friend right now that's on the verge of homelessness, and he's a close friend, and I love him. And so you're exactly right. Like, it can be anyone, just gets down on their luck, and we treat them without the kindness or the understanding, or frankly, the respect that people deserve. It's sad, but I think you see it, you're with yourself with your disabilities, and then also your own, struggles with ADHD and autism. If anybody appreciates that. I think it's the people that have to deal with that with other people's judgments. So,
and like at the same time, I have to be my own advocate. People aren't going to help me through this most of the time. And so if anybody is struggling with something like this, you need to learn about it. You need to research it. You need to understand what it is. You need to learn, how to navigate the medical community to get the help that you need. I still have to do that. Like now that I moved to Washington, I have to rebuild an entire network of doctors out here. I still need to find a doctor. I need to find a therapist. And while I hope that there's more mental health professionals out here, I haven't tried to find that yet. I'm just now finally in a place where I can start to do so. But it's going to be difficult to reestablish that relationship with medical professionals that I can trust to help me through these things. Because I've had so many experiences over my life where people had just plain ignored me and ignored my need for the help or brushed it off as something else, or, oh, you're overweight, you're lazy, or, you just need to do this thing, you need to try harder. Well, no, I actually had these problems that nobody saw until I sought them myself. And it just explained so much of why I struggled so much growing up. It explained so much of my struggles in college. It explained my inability to mingle with my coworkers. It explained just so much of that. And it was such a freeing feeling to finally understand that I wasn't broken. I'm just different. My brain is wired differently, and that's fine. There shouldn't be a stigma behind that. I just don't function in a way that society wants me to function. And honestly, fuck society. People can be people. People can go do what they want. But don't treat me like I'm different just because my brain is wired differently. Sure, I think differently. I don't see things the way the same person might see something else. I don't hold to tradition as a lot of people. I have problems with stuttering sometimes. I have just all these little traits that add up to a big problem with the way that I interact with society and with other people. And that's okay. It's okay to be this. There's no shame in having the disability. You have to learn how to cope with the rest of the world with it. That's the real problem. And getting that medical treatment is difficult in America, but don't give up on doing it. Because for me, this has been one of the most important things I've ever done, was go through this journey of just self-discovery, really, to understand that I wasn't broken and that there are ways that I can manage these symptoms. I'll never get rid of them. There's no way to get rid of the stuff, but I can at least have some semblance of a normal life. And especially in the fandom, like most of the people that I interact with feel like they're also neurodivergent. And I mean, I don't know how much study's been done on it, but I would probably estimate that probably 80% of furries are neurodivergent. In just of what I see at cons, how all of my friend groups. And there's this funny thing that happens where neurodivergent people tend to find other people that are neurodivergent, whether it's through shared life experience or from just the fact that they're able to relate to one another a lot easier. And, it's funny because after I got my autism diagnosis, a lot of my other friends were like, your experience sounds really familiar. That's funny. And so I've kind of helped a few other people through their journeys of self-discovery. And I mean, I talk about it a lot on my stream, and probably a lot of the people in my stream, share a lot of the same traits. And it's comforting that the network of furries that, I built over the years, and all of my friends and people that I know, we all really kind of are in this together with our shared, disabilities, with neurodivergence, with our shared life experience, our trials or tribulations. And that's kind of what's really been keeping me going for a lot of the time, is knowing that there's other people there, and to not be afraid to use those resources, to reach out to, if you're having a bad night, to talk to somebody. Don't let the negativity overwhelm you. Just, reach out to other people. Don't be afraid. Don't let the shame keep you from getting help.
Yeah.
because there is help. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And that's so important to realize, like, lean on other people, because that's what your friends are there for. And to be willing to have intimate discussions with them about your problems. I think it's very, especially in our social media age, it's very hard sometimes to acknowledge problems or weaknesses that we may have, because we always want to appear that everything is wonderful and peachy. And so, like, I don't know, like, I know the 80% was like an anecdotal, your experience of people in the community that probably have neurodivergence. Mine's probably a little less, just the people that I'm around, but I still do see a significant portion of our community that do have, you know, these things that we deal with. And so it is important, as you said, like, be open, be honest, and then seek that help. There's nothing, well, nothing wrong can happen. The worst that they can say is, you might not have this. That's the worst. The best is, you know, they help you get treatment for what you might have. And if it isn't that, then they help you find out what it is. Like, seeking help is never a bad thing.
Yeah. And it was probably the best thing that I ever did. I mean, especially the ADHD, there is medical treatment for it. I can take a pill to help me focus. It doesn't fix all my problems, but it helps me get to a place where I can focus. But there's a lot of coping strategies that I have to use to just live a normal life. Like, adulting is hard. It's especially harder when you forget to pay a bill. It's especially harder when you forget where your keys are at. Like, this makes living alone infinitely harder. And it's been rough, but it's been worth it to go through the journey.
Yep. So you talked about how autism, there really isn't a treatment for it. What are some ways that you have found that now that you've been diagnosed for it, what are some things that you do to help kind of cope or mitigate some of the issues that you encounter because of it?
I mean, the first step to resolving a problem is understanding it's there. So, like I said earlier, when I said I'm struggling to not finish your sentences for you, understanding that I do that allows me to have the ability to restrain that when it does come up. And I mean, a lot of these symptoms are things that are negative. There's not a whole lot of positives to autism. And some things like my clothing sensitivity. Now I know when I go shopping, if I don't find something that doesn't feel like Under Armour, I'm probably not going to buy it and probably not going to enjoy it. So I've been very thankful, especially in the furry community, when a lot of the people who are like making shirts like Nomad Complex, for example, the fabric of their shirts are comfortable, and they didn't used to be. I mean, a lot of the shirts in fandom, like when I went to cons and stuff, I'd want to get something, but I would go up and feel it and like, never mind. I guess I won't wear this ever, even though it looks really cool. But, you know, just understanding those traits about you and knowing that, hey, you're going to have a problem with this, to avoid it. Like my sensitivity to light and sound. If I want to go to a con now, if I want to go, you know, do a rave or something, I have a pair of noise canceling headphones. That allows me to go into the rave just fine. It lowers the decibels enough that I can stand it. Now, I'm not going to be able to be there all night, but it allows me to at least enjoy it. And I don't know how many of my friends have the same noise-canceling headphones that I see around here walking around. Like, when I go on a walk with my friends here in the apartment complex, they've got their noise-canceling headphones on. They're not wearing them. They're on, like they're on their neck. They're ready at any moment. And they also share a lot of the same sensitivities to clothing that I do, and just other things like that. Some of them have sensitivities to like cold. It's really strange, but just there's a lot of little things that you have to learn how to cope with. And like my problem of rotating shapes in my head, I know that now. So like if I want to go do drawing stuff, you have to reference a lot. And I would definitely recommend, you know, Canyon's videos on drawing, and his stuff on YouTube has been really helpful for that. But some of his tricks, like, you know, using references, I can go to IKEA and buy one of their little weird mannequins that they have, like in the flower section or something. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to rotate the subject in my head now. I can do that in front of me. And I do a lot of stimming. That's another big thing with ADHD. Not so much autism, but they kind of correlate. A lot of the symptoms correlate with each other. But stimming, like I bounce my knee all the time. I actually
Okay,
locked my chair.
you're not like doping up stimming. It's more just like muscle movement and.
No, it's like muscle movement, like having something in your hands. Like right now, the only reason I'm not fidgeting is because I have my VR controllers in my hands. And like some people will flick a pen around all the time, or like the fidget spinners that came out during the pandemic. Like that was a big help. And I've actually locked my chair because my chair can recline and rock back and forth, where I would have been rocking this whole time. And it's just little things like that to manage my symptoms. I can't get rid of them, but I can manage them. And learning those strategies, what works for other people, and trying them out, see if it works for you. Like a lot of people love calendars when it comes to ADHD treatment. And they don't quite work for me. I really need just kind of a little notebook of stuff that I know is coming up, and I need to write it over and over and over and over and over again to remember to do it. Or I've memorized the payment dates for all of my bills so that I know that when that day comes, I need to pay the bill. And auto pay is a great feature for that. I don't use it myself, but it works for a lot of people. But like more specifically with the autism, like I know that it's hard for me to look people in the eye. So I know that when I'm in an important conversation at work, that I have to actively look someone in the eye and remember to do it. And it's hard, but knowing that I have these traits and knowing that I need to do certain things to, have a better life, it really helps to practice them. Like, especially because I do have anxiety attacks on occasion still. I had them a lot worse in college. But the only reason that I don't have them all the time now is because I learned how to recognize the signs of that attack coming on and remove myself from whatever stimuli was causing the problem. And to learn various things like breathing exercises to calm down, or to play a lot of music that I like to get my mind off of it or something. It was just, I didn't understand that before I started looking into it. And some people may, just intuitively get that. But for me, I had to research it and study it to understand how it works, why it does that, and to be able to ask other people, what works for you, and try that out. I would have never thought to, wear noise-canceling headphones around to Costco, but I didn't understand why I was getting so anxious at Costco all the time. Now when I go to Costco, I'm wearing headphones all the time. And now I can shop. Like, I don't have to care anymore. But I didn't know that was the problem. So it's doing your homework, your research into it. And once you have a name to put to a problem, it's a lot easier to find stuff for that.
Right. You can either some people, the approach they take is, you bury your head in the sand, but then nothing ever actually gets better. You're just ignoring the problem and hoping it'll go away when it won't. So I like your advice is just, figure out what you have. And then once then you can find out what works because you know what other people have done that are in similar circumstances.
Yep.
Awesome. Chaotic, you are amazing. Thank you so much for spending time and talking about all this. With the last bit that we have, I want to give you an opportunity to plug your stream and talk about streaming because that's something super fun for you, something you really enjoy. And after spending 5 episodes with us, you deserve to be plugged. So tell people where can they go watch your awesome streams? What are your streams like? Give us some good what are some good memories you have about streaming and why you do it?
I've been streaming for about 5 years now. I don't have a big stream, but we do have good times on my stream. I stream a lot of variety stuff. I play mainly shooters, but I like to do a lot of adventure games, a lot of simulators, stuff like that. Do lots of Mario Party. We do lots of Apex Legends. Probably going to start streaming Valorant soon. I did Minecraft for a long time, for a while. Did lots of RimWorld. It's just, we kind of jump all over the place. It's kind of whatever I'm in the mood for.
Okay, so your name is Chaotic, and you play Mario Party. I'm guessing that there's some kind of chaotic story that you have there. I'm just
Yes.
knowing what Mario Party is.
Yeah, Mario Party is friendship extraordinaire, the game. And I think one of my favorite streams has been, I streamed with, of course, my boyfriend Ronan, and one of our friends, Texan Soda, and another of our friends, Red Flash Drive. And there's actually a video of this on YouTube, of this particular stream, because Red, in his infinite wisdom, decided he was going to make a video of it and edited the stream into a video. So there is physical evidence of this on the internet. But I don't play Mario Party normal. I play Mario Party to land on chance time, because everybody loves Crazy Chaotic's chance time.
Chance time.
And chance time is, what makes and breaks friendships. So I like to test people's luck. And this particular stream, I had said many times that I was playing the long game. I had insurance. I had a mushroom. I had a skeleton key. We were playing on, I think, Mario Party Superstars. And it was a one space map. And there's a couple chance time spaces in the bottom corner of the map where you need a key to get into. And I think on like turn 3 or something, I bought a key. And everybody's like, why are you buying a key? What the hell? And I'm like, give me an hour and I'll show you why I'm buying a key right now. And this is insurance for later in the game. And then lo and behold, later in the game, I open that door to that chance time section and I land on both chance times because I bought a poison mushroom. And I'm like, it's Crazy Chaotic's chance time now,
You
everybody.
poisoned yourself so you could land on more chance times.
Of course, everybody needs more chance time in their life. Like playing Monopoly, everybody needs more of that. But oh God, streaming has been such a joy for me. It's been the one thing I've been able to keep up in my life. I'm very proud of it. I may not be a large streamer. I may not be a successful streamer, but I have been a streamer. And that has been a really good joy for me because it lets me, interact with people. It lets me meet new people. It lets me, play cool games. I get to have really cool, fun times with friends. I get to sit there and blather on about random, ADHD or, my autistic fascinations with man-made disasters and weather. And people come and enjoy that. And we'll sit and chat. And, I may not have an active chat all the time. I have a lot of lurkers in my chat, but that doesn't stop me from letting my ADHD run wild. And especially with high-octane games like Apex, I can sit there and talk for 5 hours straight without a single person in chat. It's nice. I wish people, would talk more, but that's just the nature of streaming.
Well, I think you're selling your streams a little short because typically when I bounce in, you have a fairly active audience that's primarily there to tease you.
Well, I mean, we enjoy a little teasing around here, but I mean, I do lots of multi-streams with other people, and I like to collaborate with folks. I like to get out and, meet people. I've collaborated with a lot of friends on streaming. Thank God I've played with I played with Red Flash Drive, I've played with Texas, I've played with Boyfriend, I've played with Milo Buppo, I played with a couple other of my Apex friends on occasion, Pilot Ship, love him, need to chat with him more often. Played with Doryu, played with a lot of other people like during the Fortnite tournament streams that have been happening sometimes. We've done a few charity events. I've been part of Extra Life with the First for Life team. Once I need to do that more. But I guess, I should talk to TK about that. But
expect more plugins as that gets closer. Anyways.
So, that's always a fun time. Raising money for good events is always a good time. And I just like to let myself loose. It's the one place where I can just turn my brain off, allow my ADHD to just take over and be unfiltered, unrestrained, and just be totally myself. And people come to watch that. It's a really cool feeling. I like to be entertaining for people. I don't want to just sit and chat about my life. I want to make a space where people can come and, enjoy themselves and watch me make bad decisions. It's always a good time. We do enjoy the bad decision stream. I like to put my own spin on it. I like to do a lot of the stream automation stuff. I like to build little fun interactables with the chat. I have some things where you can spend channel points on Twitch to, change my PNG tuber or something, or throw objects at my VTuber. That's a big thing nowadays. But I like to. Lately, I've been doing kind of Sea of Thieves, where I have little pirate PNG tuber that he gets bigger when people throw channel points at him, and then he gets bigger, and then he gets bigger, and then he takes up the entire screen, and he's transparent. And it's just the fun little things. It's the little things that make streaming fun. And I hope to be able to grow that into more of a self-sustaining thing. It'd be nice if I could do it full time, but that's a bit far down the road. But it's been very enjoyable. It lets me interact with tech. It lets me interact with a lot of the things that I enjoy in computers. And it gives me a place where I can be myself. And if people enjoy that, that's a bonus.
Awesome. Yeah, go check out 2Chaotic. We'll link his info. I think he gave us a link tree that we'll put in the description down below the video. Before we finish, is there any advice that you would give to somebody that's new to the furry community, or maybe determining or questioning if they want to become active in this community? Maybe they're just lurking. Maybe they're watching this video and they're like, oh, those are cute. And they've been watching and they're like, well, I kind of want to get more involved in this community. What kind of advice would you give to someone like that?
My advice for that is there are furries everywhere. There are furries in every occupation. We run the internet, basically. I mean, furries are tech extraordinaires. I'm pretty sure if a plane crashed on the way to MFF, I'm pretty sure the internet would stop functioning. But my main advice would be, seek local people out. Don't be afraid to jump in, get your feet wet with furry. Find online spaces. Find the people that you mesh with. Go experience streams. There's lots of furry streamers, not just me. I'm but one small fish in a big pond. There's something for everybody out there. Don't be afraid to try art. Don't be afraid to try writing. Don't be afraid, to go to a con, see all the cool fursuits. Hug lots of fursuits. That's a good time. Always love to hug fursuits. Don't be afraid of, if you see something weird, don't be afraid to engage with it. Go to the weird panels. Go to a bondage panel. I don't care if you're into it. Go experience it. Go try new things. That's the spice of life. I definitely recommend the inflatable panels at any convention. We do enjoy this week around here. And just don't close yourself off. Don't isolate yourself. Go out. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to meet new people. And even if the fandom is kind of weird sometimes, we're pretty cringe, but we're a good cringe. And, with a lot of the furries being neurotypical, you may not, always mesh well with everybody. But don't write people off just because they act a little different. Because you may just find they're the nicest person in the world, even if they look a little weird on the surface. And yeah, just don't judge the book by its cover. Open it wide, throw open that Encyclopedia Furtanica, and go wild. That's what we're really here for at the end of the day, is to be ourselves. And don't let anybody else tell you who you are.
Awesome. I agree with that 100%, especially we're the good cringe, but we're also heckin' nice. So come and have fun, be yourself, and just enjoy the community. I agree 100%. Well, Chaotic, you're amazing. Thank you for being on this podcast for 5 episodes. When I first approached you with this, I'm like, it might just be 50 minutes long. And you were just like, 50 minute? Oh, how am I going to fill 50 minutes? But here we are. So this has been a fantastic 5-part series podcast on 2Chaotic. Again, go check him out. We'll link his link tree down below so you can go check out his socials or his Twitch stream. Thank you again for being here for 5 episodes. Again, if you're here for 5 episodes and you have not clicked the subscribe or like button, I don't know what to tell you. You're never going to do it. You're never going to help support awesome furry streams like us, but we still appreciate you watching. Thank you for being here. The next podcast, we've got another exciting being. I think that you mentioned them without even realizing that they might be on the podcast next. So be looking forward to that. We've got future plans. And as we continue to do this, if you are interested in being on the podcast, I believe, if I'm on top of things, I'm going to put a link down below for an interest form. So you can go and you can fill out if you're interested in being on this podcast. We'd really appreciate having people with a similar amazing life stories, especially people like Chaotic that are good at telling them to others, because this has been a pleasure. Chaotic, you're amazing. Thank you again for being here. And thank you for watching. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Pause for My Tail podcast. Thank you. Bye.